Welcome back to the exam preparation video series for AI-102, Designing and Implementing an Azure AI Solution. I'm Bobbie Russell. I'm a Microsoft technical trainer. This is the 5th episode out of a total of 6 episodes in this series. Here is a list of all the different skills you may be tested on. These are sometimes referred to as may included, meaning they may or may not be on your exam. This list isn't exhaustive, and while we won't be covering every skill in this video, be sure you're able to perform these skills before taking your exam. Make sure to understand how to extract key phrases using Azure AI language services, including how to set up the resource and send requests through a REST API or client library. It's also helpful to know the different ways you can use key phrase extraction, whether it's through Language Studio, programmatically, or even a Docker container. On top of that, make sure you're familiar with how entity extraction works, especially the difference between named entity recognition and entity linking. These tools are great for pulling meaningful information out of raw text and organizing it in a way that's helpful. So remember that and understand that for your exam. Explore how sentiment analysis works, especially how it breaks down text to identify whether the tone is positive, negative, or neutral. It's also useful for understanding opinion mining, which digs deeper to connect specific subjects with opinions expressed about them. Knowing how language detection operates and the confidence scores is another key concept to remember. You should understand how to detect PII in text using Azure AI language services. It's important to know how to create a language service resource and use the key and endpoint to send requests with raw text. You should be familiar with using REST API or client libraries in languages like Python, Java, and so forth. So make sure you explore how to stream or store the response locally in another useful area. And don't forget to check out how your Language Studio can be used for things like entity linking and testing without the need for Azure accounts. Make sure to take time to explore the full range of operations available in both text and document translation. It's helpful to understand how text translation supports translating and transliteration, detecting languages, and even using dictionary lookup and examples to provide context. You'll want to know how document translation works with large files, including how it preserves formatting and supports multiple languages in a single document. Custom translation using glossaries is another area worth reviewing. It's also important to understand how the service can automatically detect the language of a document before translating it. Knowing the difference between translating a sentence and translating a full document will help clarify when and what tool to use. These tools work together to make multilingual content more accessible, so remember that. Exploring how generative AI speaking capabilities are integrated into applications, especially the role of voice assistants, is important. It's important to understand how components like speech recognition, keyword spotting, and text-to-speech work together on a device. Knowing how the system decides which voice solution to use and how it delivers responses through voice or text output is important, so keep that in mind. Understanding the key features of speech synthesis, including how it offers a variety of natural sounding voices and supports use cases like accessibility, multitasking should be key areas of study. It's helpful to know that deep neural networks improve expressiveness of speech, especially in terms and stress and annotation. You should know also how to explore and create custom neural voices and use batch synthesis API for longer audio files. It's also important to know how SAML can be used to fine-tune output, like choosing the voice, language style, or even inserting pre-recorded audio. Understanding how to control pronunciation and structure input text with SSML will give you more control over the final output. Know how online testing works, especially when comparing a custom model's accuracy to a baseline. It's useful to understand that this can be done using either a custom language or acoustic model, and that the custom speech portal provides tools to add tests and evaluate results. You should also be familiar with word error rate, or WER, which is the main metric used to measure speech recognition accuracy. WER helps identify how many words are inserted, deleted, or substituted incorrectly in a transcript. Knowing what WR percentages mean in terms of model quality will help determine when a model is ready or needs more training. Take some time to explore how pattern matching can be used for quick offline intent recognition, including how to set up your code, configure speech settings, and declare entities as intents. On the other side, get familiar with using custom language understanding, or CLU, to build more advanced models that predict user intent. This includes creating a project, training the model with different modes and data splits, and deploying it for real-time use. Knowing how to use a microphone to capture input and test your model is also a key part of the process. Focus on how to implement keyword recognition using Azure AI Speech, including steps like creating a project in Speech Studio, defining custom keywords, and tuning the model. Lastly, be sure to know the differences between basic and advanced keyword models. Basic ones are great for quick testing, while advanced models are better for full product integration. You should focus on understanding how the speech translation API works and how it fits into different development scenarios. It's helpful to walk through the full translation process and explore how each of the 4 translation tools, which are Speech Translator, API, Speech CLI, Speech SDK, and Speech Studio, can be used depending on the level of customization or coding required. Make sure you understand how intents, entities, and utterances work together in conversational language understanding. It's important to get familiar with the different types of entity components, like learned, list, pre-built, and regex, and how each one helps extract useful information from user inputs. You also want to know how to add entities to your system, including naming them and setting up their composition. Keep in mind that you should be familiar with the full life cycle of building a language understanding model. This includes selecting data, defining the schema, and labeling the data accurately. It's important to understand how to train your models and evaluate its performance to identify areas of improvement. Understand how a client application interacts with a language model to process natural language input. It's helpful to know that the app first captures what the user says or types, then uses a language model to figure out the intent behind the input. How do you create a custom question answer project? Starting with setting up a new project and then choosing the appropriate language. Know this. It's useful to know how to pull in question and answer pairs from source URLs, which help automate the process. You can also manually add question and answer pairs if needed. Take some time to understand how Azure question and answering handles different types of documents when creating a custom Q&A project. It's useful to know that structured files like docs and PDFs are processed based on their formatting, with headings and subheadings often used to generate questions. Know that once you have imported the source documents to a knowledge base, you can edit the content and then test, train, and publish it when you're done. Understand the key steps on how to train, test, and publish a knowledge base, as well as know that, again, when working with solutions that need some type of customization, you'll need to train its natural language model and test it before publishing it to your application. Understand the key steps on how to create a multi-turn conversation, from things like selecting and adding a follow-up prompt, or selecting the option to create a link for a new pair and then selecting done. So know those steps. Understand how to add alternate phrasing with the help of examples that you see here on the slide. And explain how to add chit-chat to a knowledge base. And, what is chit-chat used for? Understand what that is. So keep those things in mind. Improving text-to-speech by using speech synthesis is another important thing. Recall the speech-to-text features. Some of those features include high-quality transcription, customizable models, flexible deployment, and production ready. Know that with custom speech, the accuracy of the speech recognition can be evaluated and improved. Know about SSML and explain the use cases for it. Summarize features with custom neural voice or CNV. Other things you want to know. Optimizing, backing up, and recovering natural language understanding models. Understand the recommendations for understanding the models. Some of the key points you want to keep in mind: active learning captures endpoint queries and selects the user's endpoint utterances, which it's unsure of. Other things you want to look at. Understand the process to back up and recover a language understanding model. So what are those steps? As well as how to export a knowledge base, as well as create a multi-language question and answer solution, and finally, implementing custom translation, including training, improving, and publishing a custom model. So in this episode, we discussed the following things. Remember, this group accounts for 15 to 20% of your exam, so keep that in mind when you're preparing for your exam. So with that, thanks for watching episode 5, Implementing Natural Language Processing Solutions. Be sure to join us for our final episode, episode 6, where we'll cover implementing knowledge mining and information extraction solutions.